Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendik's Weather channel, where today we will be looking at the latest from the models to see what they are showing, particularly focusing on November. So a little bit dabbling into the longer range prospects, but not too far into the future that it's unrealistic like some of my other videos have certainly suggested. But we're only venturing into the start of November in particular, but we'll also look at the whole month in general, because there are actually some stars aligning potentially, especially at the end of the month, but not just then as well. And you'll see that in a minute. We'll start by looking at the CFS, and if you do enjoy today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I do appreciate your continued support as we are on the road to 2,500 subscribers. We're already on the road to it, and your support is much appreciated. Watching to the end, liking the video, all that sort of stuff really does help out the channel. But anyway, so as we all know, in the next couple of days, we're going to see a bit of a colder snap through Friday into Sunday next week. But what about beyond that? Well, we're going to start by looking at the CFS run, which shows something very interesting actually for the start of November. So, as that cooler spell moves away from the UK, we do actually see higher pressure into the start of November with this run, returning over and just to the south of the country, and we drag in a very mild south or southwesterly airflow. So we're dragging the 10 degree ice but to the far north of Scotland. That could lift the temperatures into the mid-teens, actually very pleasant. But in the southeast, you could actually see an inversion due to the position of the high. However, as we go into around the second half of the first week of November, you do see high pressure ridges out in the Atlantic, lower pressures diving to our east, and as you can see, low pressure to the east, high pressure to the west, winds reverting back into a northwesterly direction, into a direct northerly. If you follow the isobars back, you can see they are originating from the Arctic Circle, so a long way north. Many parts of Eastern Europe are plunged into the freezer, and the UK is alongside with that as well. And it's looking pretty cold there. Maybe even wintry, with some wintry showers in the north and the east. We've got some kinks in the isobars. Some people hate me saying that, but yeah, some kinky isobars on the 8th of November with this run. Pretty cold, and that could be bringing some snow showers into the north of the country and the northeast. So pretty cold there. But as we go beyond, you can see that northerly begins to topple away very slightly. It retreats for a day before again higher pressure still remains out to our west for a while. And we're still bringing in a slack northwesterly to northerly flow. So pretty cold, but maybe turning much drier as we go beyond, with much more frost and fog. But the higher pressure does eventually sink. But, you know, week long to 10 days cold spell there with plenty of wintry potential, particularly in the north, and plenty of frost potential. Then as you can see, through the CFS run throughout November, higher pressure remains to the south and lower pressure remains to the north. Westerly wind, again, we do try and build the heights out to the west by the 22nd of November. Higher pressure ridging out very briefly to the west, bringing in a slight northwesterly flow for like a day, and then we're back into the southwesterly winds into the start of December. And we're not going to go beyond that, but yeah, you can see it turns very mild through December with the CFS 6Z run. If we look at the midnight run, and I'll very briefly gloss over this, you can see that through the first days of November has a completely different idea. That higher pressure does move to our south, like its predecessor run showed, but it maintains to the south and doesn't really move up towards Greenland like we saw in the other runs. Lower pressure to the north, higher pressure to the south is the general trend. Brief cooler spells at times, but really nothing too much going on, with an Atlantic-driven westerly flow, and then it turns very mild through December and not too much happens. Apart from maybe a bit of snow at Christmas there, with some higher pressure out in the Atlantic for a brief time. But of course, open to a lot of uncertainty and deviation within the models. But you know, that some of those runs were pretty interesting, you have to say, actually. Moving on to the ECM ideas for November, we're going to look at week 1 to start with, which is the 27th of October to the 3rd of November. And the ECM's idea is higher pressure extending to the Canadian side of Greenland and lower pressure sinking over Scandinavia. We send the low to Scandi, we send it to Scandi. Bringing down, you'd expect there a cold northwesterly wind. Now we have got higher heights risen to the south, and that could be bringing in a southwesterly flow, but I expect that to affect northern France and not the UK. But if we go to that week anomaly, temperatures are expected to be around to slightly below average, particularly in the north, and near a normal further south. But again, could be quite a cold week. That one, if the ECM's anything to go by. Slightly more unsettled as well with that low pressure, which could, area of low pressure, which could bring in a little bit more rainfall, maybe even a little bit of snow over the Scottish mountains, maybe even in the south as well. Anyway, moving on to the second week, which is the 3rd to the 10th of November. We have higher pressure maintained out in the North Atlantic up towards Greenland. Lower, we've got heights quite strong to the south of Spain, and we've got lower pressure over Scandi still. That's a bit of a problem because for the south it could be bringing up a mild southwesterly, but for the north could be bringing around a cold northerly. So a bit of a battleground scenario there. As you can see, evidenced by the 2-meter temperatures, near normal in the north, but probably a little bit below average. But then for the south, with that southwesterly flow, could actually be quite mild. So a bit of a battleground there. And precipitation is wetter than average for all parts of the UK. Moving into the third week, the 10th to the 17th of November, now we do see a proper change. Higher pressure in the Atlantic, mid-Atlantic ridge, up towards Greenland. You'd expect this white area to be areas of lower pressure, and that could bring down a northerly flow. Now again, heights are strong to the south towards Spain and Italy, but with this we actually are bringing the mild southwesterlies into southern France, so probably wouldn't affect the UK. Temperature anomalies, we are getting a bit of a way out, but they are around average, not too much deviation, and it's a long way off. Precipitation, a little bit more uncertain, but wetter to the south and drier out to the north and northwest, courtesy of that area of high pressure it is showing. So it could be quite a cold week, that has potential. Obviously getting a long way out now, but it's just looking at the signs. The 17th to 24th of November shows this, which shows things settling down. Higher pressure throughout the Western Europe, extending eastwards from the North Atlantic into Eastern Europe. With the 2-meter temperatures, you can see that it is showing temperatures rising as you'd expect, probably bringing in an Atlantic flow, but obviously mostly dry with that high pressure in place. And the precipitation anomalies are drier out to our west and probably throughout the UK as well, and many parts of Eastern Europe with the unsettled conditions. Probably moving further northwards towards Greenland, Iceland, Denmark, Scandinavia and Sweden. And you can see many parts of Eastern Europe probably drier than average there. And then the final week we can show takes us to the 1st of December. And that shows higher pressure, maybe slightly out to our west, but mostly we're under high pressure still. But the winds with that would be coming in possibly from the northwest around that high, but we're still high and dry. 2-meter temperatures, again with that northwesterly flow, potentially could be slightly below average to around average. Not too much deviation from the mean. Probably most likely to be mild in the north and northwest. But on the whole, drier than average week with the ECM for the 24th of November to the 1st of December. December to remember. Could it be the year? Probably not. Probably not the year, let's be honest. You never know. You never know what the weather might throw up at the end of the day. If you remember my November forecast, I did say that I think the start of the month will be nondescript and the end of the month is a period to really watch out for. I do actually think I might have to adjust that and say that the start of the month could actually see some colder incursions at times, but I do think on the whole it will probably be quite unsettled with milder spells particularly dominant throughout. But of course that's subject to change, and you've got to go with your gut, haven't you? You've got to go with what's being suggested at the time. The NAO is remaining in a negative phase, which could indicate that we could see blocking signals developing much easier, and lower pressure being shifted further southwards, which could really introduce some colder air if it moves to the east over Scandinavia, Svalbard, and we bring down them northerly winds. That could be a real feature of this November, but of course the stars have to align, and the weather will do whatever the hell the weather will want to do. Thank you all very much for today's video. Hopefully you found it informative. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and all that good stuff. And make sure to ding my bell to get notified when I upload new videos. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.